I believe in one holy Catholic apostolic church is something we profess every Sunday. But recently it seems like Catholicism is more many divided religions than one big one. I mean, there's the liberal church, the mainstream church, the radical traditional church. Why is a supposedly united religion filled with so much division? In this video, I'm going to be discussing 3 of the different types of Catholics that I see in the Catholic Church and make an argument for which one we should be. As a disclaimer, I am somewhat stereotyping to make a point, but just work with me here and I promise I'll make it worth your time. The first Catholic on our list is the so-called liberal Catholic, and honestly, I hesitate to call them Catholic at all. Liberal Catholics claim to be a part of the church, but support anti-Catholic policies like same-sex unions, pro-choice rights, and feminism. Liberal Catholics may miss Mass at the slightest inconvenience and don't believe in holy days of obligation. They'll receive communion on the few times they go to Mass, regardless of the state of their soul, because they're Catholic. They think those that are more traditional, wear chapel veils, and kneel to receive communion are backwards, judgy, and living in the past. Generally, liberal Catholics only like to hang out with other liberal Catholics, but mainstream Catholics are okay just as long as they don't make them feel too bad. Which leads me into my next type of Catholic, which is the mainstream Catholic. Mainstream Catholics are faithful, polite, and moderate. They go to the Novus Ordo, they receive communion either in the hand or the tongue, hold hands during the Our Father, and they're usually the ones that arrange the monthly donut social after Mass. They typically don't veil at Mass, but they don't really mind those that do. Moderate Catholics generally don't have a problem with anything that goes on at Mass. They stay out of politics, and they don't mind traditional Catholics, but they don't really understand the whole fuss about the Latin Mass and Vatican Council II and all of that. Moderate Catholics generally go about their lives. They don't miss Mass unless they're sick or traveling, and they're mostly accepting of everybody, although radical traditional Catholics scare them a little bit. Which leads me into the next type of Catholic, which is the radical traditional Catholics, or rad-trads for short. Now, these types of Catholics are so traditional that they reject most official statements of the Catholic Church after 1960 under the guise of protecting tradition. These Catholics go exclusively to the traditional Latin Mass, oftentimes in SSPX parish, and will excuse themselves of their Sunday obligation if there is not a traditional Latin Mass near them. They reject Vatican Council II as a heretical council, and reject most, if not all, of its teachings. They consider the Novus Ordo heretical, invalid, more Protestant than Catholic, and think that everyone who attends the Novus Ordo has not fulfilled their Sunday obligation. They are extremely passionate, very vocal online, and have almost sede vacantis leanings. Rad-trads tend to think Pope Francis was a heretic and not the real Pope, and they like Pope Leo better, but he's nowhere near traditional enough for them. They do not associate with liberal Catholics in person, only in online comment section, and they will tolerate moderate Catholics so far as they can educate them on the error of their ways. Now, do all of these different types of Catholics sound like they belong to the same religion to you? No, me neither. But what's to be done? I mean, which one should we be? Well, obviously, we can't be the liberal Catholic because they hold things that are opposed to the Catholic Church. But what about a moderate Catholic? They seem pretty nice. My only issue with moderate Catholics is that they seem very much to go with the flow and don't seem to take their post-confirmation continued education as a Catholic as seriously as they should. Yes, they don't hold any positions that are contrary to Catholic Church teachings, but would they know if they did? They're sweet and they're kind and they're faithful and friendly, but they're too passive and they don't really know what it is that they believe as a Catholic. But what about radical traditionalists? I mean, not taking their faith seriously is definitely not something that you could accuse them of. But actually, I think radical Catholics have more in common with liberal Catholics than moderate Catholics because they hold teachings that are contrary to the Catholic Church. For example, the Catholic Church has never said that the Novus Ordo is invalid. And granted, the situation in which the Novus Ordo was created is a bit sketchy, but to decry the entire liturgy as invalid is to put yourself above the Church and declare something that she never taught. Yes, tradition is important and we should hold on to it and protect it and treasure it. But to berate and attack your fellow Catholics out of love for tradition is anything but loving. Rad-trad's zeal for tradition leads them farther and farther away from the church they think they're protecting, and close to heresies like sedevacantism. Now, the main point I'm trying to get across here is something Aristotle noted hundreds of years ago, and it is this, that virtue lies in the balance between two extremes. This line of virtue he coined the golden mean. Take the virtue of courage, for example. Courage is the virtue that lies between the excess of courage, which is recklessness, and not enough courage, which is cowardice. So it lies in the balance between two extremes. In the same way, the love of tradition is that virtue that lies in the balance between excess of love for tradition, which is dismissing anything new as invalid or heretical, and then not enough love of tradition by accepting all sorts of hasty innovations into the church without a second thought, without even considering what the church has actually taught about tradition. The radical traditional Catholic loves tradition too much, and the liberal Catholic doesn't love it enough. But the virtue is on neither side of these, but is in the middle, right here. We can love the traditional Latin Mass without saying that the Novus Ordo is invalid. And we can also say the Novus Ordo is valid without whitewashing all of the liberalities that have been taken with this new Mass that the actual documents of Vatican II said nothing about. The fact is, there are some legitimate concerns with how the Novus Ordo is being celebrated today. But we shouldn't wade so deeply that we end up in schismatic waters by saying it's invalid. As Catholics, we need to walk this line of virtue and avoid the traps the devil lays for us that lie on the two extremes. And it all comes back to education. If we are properly educated in what the church actually teaches, then we're not going to be swayed by our emotions or opinions in areas that are nuanced in the church. But of course, I'm going to be the last one to say unity at all costs, because these things matter. Tradition matters, reverence matters, the liturgy matters. But if we have the whole of church teaching on our side, we won't need to defend ourselves, or fear we'll end up in heresy. The gates of hell will not prevail against us so long as we remain within the bark of the church. And you better believe that bark is sailing straight along that path of virtue between the two extremes. Guys, we're all brothers and sisters. We're all Catholics. Not liberal Catholics, not moderate Catholics, not rad-trad Catholics. We're Catholics. Under one creed, one pope, one magisterium, one Christ. We've already had a schism. Let's not start another one. If you like this type of content and you want to know more about the teachings of the Catholic Church, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and let me know by hitting the like button. And if you like this video, I bet you're really going to love this one right over here. So go ahead and watch that before you go. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day, guys, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye, guys.